And we are live here in the garden here in Rockport, Texas. I am your host, TJ Riddell. And this is the PMP. And welcome to tonight's special show here. We're going to talk about college football, folks. My favorite sport, my favorite everything. It's my lifeblood. And I tell you what, this week is very interesting. You got A&M going to Tuscaloosa. You got the Red River Rivalry. You got Oklahoma State unbeaten taking on Texas Tech. You got the college game day of the week. Game of the week for college game day. In Lawrence, Kansas, where you got Kansas taking on TCU. Both unbeaten. Is Kansas legit or is TCU going to run right through them? I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I am definitely excited to have this show on. It is going to be short, just like last night. But I got to say, man, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting, okay? Now, we're going to go over the Week 5 scores and my predictions. I didn't do so hot this week, or this past week, against everyone's favorites, okay? And I got to say, I underestimated a lot of teams in this pick. And some teams I overestimated, which means I thought they were going to beat the crap out of someone, and they just took a shit, you know? I mean, it happens. It's college football. And we're going to jump right into it, okay? Last Thursday night, it was Utah State taking on BYU, okay? Now, this game, I thought BYU was going to pummel the Aggies of Utah State, and it didn't really show that BYU actually pummeled Utah State, but they won 38-26. Pretty decent score. But I got to tell you, this kid at quarterback, Hall for BYU, Jaron Hall, 17 for 27, 274 passing yards, 3 touchdowns for the young man in blue as they get ready to take on good old Notre Dame here this next week. But Brooks, he got 11 carries, 90 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Epps for the Cougars of Brigham Young, 5 receptions, 86 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Legis, I think that's how you say it. Legis or Legis, I don't know. But 19 for 31, 188 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Okay. Not bad, but not good. But Tyler Jr., 18 carries, 104 rushing yards, no touchdowns. So they didn't utilize trying to run the ball with Tyler. But Cobbs has 2 receiving touchdowns with 10 receptions, 96 receiving yards. I mean, this was a weird game. It started off with Legis running it in for a touchdown. Then all of a sudden, Jaron Hall goes off with a 31-yard touchdown pass to Keanu Hill. Then Max Tooley intercepts the pass thrown by Legis and runs for 34 yards for a touchdown. Then Connor Coles kicks the field goal. It's good. We're in the second quarter, by the way. Brian Cobbs gets a 14-yard reception from Cooper Legis and puts the score at 17-14. And then BYU kicks a 45-yard field goal by Oldroyd, which sets them up for 17-17 at the half. And then it was just BYU scoring first again in the third quarter. Ethan Erickson with a 14-yard reception thrown by Jaron Hall. And that puts it up 24-17. Then Connor Coles kicks a 33-yard field goal, which brings it closer to 24-20. Cody Epps, 8-yard pass or 8-yard reception thrown by Jaron Hall again. Turns out to be a 31-20 score. Then Christopher Brooks runs it in for an 18-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes and 18 seconds left to put the score at 38-20. And then Brian Cobbs gets a 27-yard reception thrown by Cooper Legis, but the 2-point conversion failed. And that's where we have our final score, 38-26. Next game. This game I really did not expect to happen. I thought Washington and UCLA were going to be in a fight. UCLA controlled the hell out of Washington. At first, Washington scored first. Rome Oduns gets a 33-yard reception from Michael Penix Jr., puts the score at 7-0. Then UCLA gets a safety, which makes the score 7-2. Then Zach Charbonnet, Michigan transfer, gets in for a Bruin touchdown. And now in the first quarter at 9-7. Then Peyton Henry gets a 50-yard field goal, puts the score at 10-9. Then Jake Bobo gets a 12-yard reception for a touchdown thrown by Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the extra point is good, which puts the score at 16-10. This is where UCLA absolutely dominated in this game. Dorian Thompson-Robinson throws a 15-yard pass to Cam Brown for a touchdown, and then that puts the score at 23-10. Then they get the ball back, drive it down the field, get a 24-yard field goal, and that score is now 26-10. And then in the third quarter, this play was tremendous. Even for a 2-yard run, DTR runs it in. But the way he ran it was spectacular. I mean, he had a defender coming right at him, right? And there's another defender just outside of him. What does he do in this situation? Does he tuck his shoulders in? Nah. He said, I'm going to do this with style. I'm in L.A., okay? I'm going to run, and I'm going to cut to my right and make the two defenders hit each other. Touchdown, UCLA. Puts the score at 33-10. Then Jalen McMillan gets a 19-yard reception thrown by Michael Penix Jr. 33-16. They tried to go for two, but the conversion was failed. Then Jake Bobo again gets a 33-9-yard reception thrown by DTR. Puts the score at 40-16. This is where I thought Washington was going to start coming back on UCLA. And you got to worry about the UCLA defense a bit in the fourth quarter. In the early fourth quarter, late third quarter is where they started to get tired. Michael Penix Jr. throws a 4-yard pass to Devin Culp, and Jalen Polk will get a 2-yard or a 2-point conversion to set the score up at 40-24. And then Michael Penix Jr. throws a 9-yard pass to Rome O'Dunn's 9-yard reception for him. And Michael Penix Jr. throws a 2-point conversion to Jalen McMillan, and that sets the score with an 8-point deficit. And after that, it's game over, 40-32. UCLA's offense was impressive in that game. DTR doing DTR things. He pretty much had his Heisman moment in this game, even though we don't know who's going to win the Heisman yet. It's still too early to tell. DTR, 24 for 33, 315 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Zach Charbonnet, 22 carries, 124 rushing yards, one touchdown. And then Jake Bobo, 6 receptions, 142 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns for that young man in UCLA. Michael Penix Jr., 33 for 48, 345 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, but 2 picks, 2 costly picks. And then Talapapa couldn't get anything going, 10 carries, 48 rushing yards. But O'Dunn's, Rome O'Dunn's, 8 receptions, 8 receptions, 116 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns for the man in Washington. I mean, the favorite to win this game was Washington, 56.1%. By the time it hit that touchdown for UCLA, or not even the touchdown. I mean, this game was pretty much controlled by UCLA, but the defense struggled at the end, which they got lucky. But I'm impressed with UCLA's offense in general. They are – you want to talk about USC, talk about UCLA a little bit. They are for real offensively. Defensively, need some work. All right, now let's go to Saturday's games real quick. I'm just going to go over the scores for the recap. I may go in depth in some games, but that's about it. First game, we'll talk about Michigan and Iowa. Now, this game was we thought that Michigan was just going to come in and pummel Iowa. They haven't gotten anything going on offense. Michigan wins 27-14. McNamara really didn't throw a whole lot, but Blake Corum is basically the heart and soul of Michigan right now. He has been a dominant force for the Wolverines. Next game we'll talk about is Kentucky and Ole Miss. This one was a little bit back and forth, a little sloppy, but I felt like Kentucky gave the win to Ole Miss in this game. And Ole Miss doesn't impress me, and neither does Kentucky. I mean, these two teams, they have been sloppy, and they played sloppy in this game. But way to take advantage of a situation for Ole Miss. So good win by the Rebels, 22-19. Next game we'll talk about. I actually watched this game. I could not believe my eyes. 55-24 TCU. Max Duggan steps in for Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris is hurt, by the way. And he absolutely spanked Oklahoma. That defense literally could not stop Max Duggan and that TCU Horned Frog offense. I mean, they gave up 668 total yards. 361 yards rushing. And TCU's defense, my goodness, they tortured Oklahoma. And, I mean, it might have been a different game for if Dylan Gabriel didn't get knocked out in that game. But, man, TCU is for real. They were taking it lightly on Oklahoma at the end, I feel like. But next game we're going to talk about is Minnesota versus Purdue. I got this one wrong, and I'm not ashamed to say it, and I'm very disappointed in Minnesota. Minnesota came in with all this hype. They were really looking good this season. And then Purdue comes into town, and Purdue knocks them down. All right. And Minnesota is usually known for their rushing. 47 total rushing yards in 26 attempts. That is not good at all if you're Minnesota. And the defense was atrocious for Purdue. I mean, or for Minnesota in the run defense. I mean, good grief. But Purdue wins 20-10. Another game I got wrong. Texas Tech coming off of a big win against Texas, squaring off against Kansas State, who came off of a big win against Oklahoma. Red River Showdown this weekend. But Kansas State and Texas, pretty much the Adrian Martinez show. They absolutely have something special here with Adrian Martinez, but it looked like for a moment in the first quarter, Kansas State was going to run through Texas Tech. And then here comes Texas Tech with the resiliency in the second quarter and third quarter. Pretty much ties the game. And then Adrian Martinez throws a touchdown pass to Phillip Brooks, 18 yards. And then Donovan Smith right back at Kansas State. Donovan Smith throws it to Xavier White, 12-yard touchdown pass. And then the fourth quarter, Adrian Martinez just took over. He had a 69-yard touchdown run and then a 12-yard touchdown run. And they scored they scored 17 unanswered points against that Texas Tech defense. And then Donovan Smith runs it in for a touchdown and gets a 2-point conversion by throwing it to Mason Thorpe. But that's it. 37-28. Kansas State wins. Next game. I was wrong on this one too. I thought Arkansas was going to be able to pull away with the upset, but a lot of people got banged up in this game on both sides. And Alabama, for a second, looked like they were going to blow out Arkansas. And then Arkansas has the resiliency to come back and make it a 28-23 score. And then Alabama just runs away with it. Jahmyr Gibbs runs a 72-yard run and then a 75-yard run to end the game with 49-26 Crimson Tide roll tide against the Hogs. The next game was somewhat controversial with the punt. I guess what happened was the Ohio State punter thought it was a good idea to run the ball on a fourth down. He found an opening. He runs for it, steps out of bounds. He gets hit hard, and there's a scuffle going around. Next thing you know, okay, you see the Rutgers head coach just sprinting at Ryan Day, and they get into it. Not in a push-up match, just screaming at each other like, you motherfucker, you son of a bitch. I mean, it was just incredible. I mean, it's what you love to see in college football. Heart and a little bit of drama. But C.J. Stroud did not have his best game. In my opinion, I think the defense helped out, and Trevion Henderson didn't play in this game, but Mayan Williams absolutely performed in this game. 5 touchdowns with almost 200 rushing yards, 21 carries. I mean, incredible stuff. And MVP goes to that punter. Sorry about that. My Roomba is but anyway, before I get into talking about my Roomba, let's talk about Penn State for a minute. Penn State wins a low-scoring affair against Northwestern. It's a sloppy game. Penn State, I don't think they're going to be undefeated heading into next week against Michigan as they go on their bye. I mean, it was just a sloppy game. I mean, but Sean Clifford throws a touchdown pass to Brenton Strange, and then Nicholas Singleton with a 2-yard touchdown. Jacob Gill with a 47-yard reception from Helinski, and then a 38-yard field goal in the fourth quarter. And that's it. I mean, that's about it, man. And I mean, the stats say it all. I mean, 360 total yards, 140 passing yards for Penn State. But the rushing wasn't great, but it was decent. 220 rushing yards total, 58 attempts. And they held Northwestern to 31, which is very impressive. I do like Penn State's run defense. Their pass defense, not so much. So next game, we're going to talk about another game that I was wrong on. Florida State taking on Wake Forest. I mean, this was a good game. I thought Florida State has improved this season. I knew at some point they were going to lose to somebody. I didn't think they would lose to Wake Forest last week. I think it was going to be competitive, and it was, but I was on the wrong side of the fence on this one. Let's take a look at some team stats here. Main reason why Wake Forest won was the third down efficiency. 10 out of 18. Wow. And then converted 4 fourth downs. And they were able to – Sam Hartman absolutely had a great game against Florida State. But the defense gave a lot of trouble to Jordan Travis. I mean, but Travis was able to not cause any turnovers. He has really grown up, and I can't wait to see what this Florida State team can do this week. Next game, another game that I got wrong. You're going to hear me say this a lot this week. We got Oklahoma State traveling to Baylor University, where the Baylor Bears get knocked down 36-25. Oklahoma State beats the Bears. Now, this game, Oklahoma State just came out to play. They absolutely hit. They actually punched Baylor in the mouth offensively. And then the defense was just absolutely – Oklahoma State's defense is scary good this season. And right now, they're looking like the best team in the Big 12. Not Kansas, not TCU, Oklahoma State. And they got a tough Texas Tech team to look to play against. And Spencer Sanders, I mean, he's an awesome dual threat. But be prepared against Texas Tech because they will bring the heat. Next game, I was right about this one. Texas A&M, my favorite team to hate, squaring off against arguably my favorite head coach, Mike Leach, who has a 9-4 record now against Texas A&M. He thought he had a 10-3 record against Texas A&M, but I thought so too. But who cares? He won. Mississippi State wins 42-24. At first, it was a sluggish game until the second quarter when Mississippi State started scoring with that air raid offense. Will Rogers absolutely had a wonderful game. Threw over 300 yards against that Aggie defense and threw 3 touchdowns. Max Johnson got hurt a little into the game. But Haynes King threw a 33-yard interception to Manuel Forbes for a Bulldog touchdown, making it 42-17, and then 42-24 whenever LJ Johnson Jr. gets a touchdown. But that Aggie defense is atrocious because of the offense. That offense cannot produce anything. It is disgusting how Texas A&M's offense is. But hats off to the Bulldogs of Starkville after losing to LSU. They look good, and I can't wait to see what they do this week. Next game, we're going to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. I thought they were going to pummel Missouri. Hell no. Missouri actually surprised everybody in the country. They gave everybody a heart attack by almost playing. If they would have played all 4 quarters in this game, they would have won. Georgia could not get anything done on the offense. Missouri outcoached them, outplayed them in the first 3 quarters. And then Georgia started to come back in the third quarter. And then after Missouri scored their 22nd point, that's when Georgia started to click. Oh, shit, our number 1 rank is on the line. And they were able to win 26-22. Stetson Bennett, even though he had 300 yards, did not throw a touchdown, did not throw an interception. At least there was not that many mistakes. At one point, the win probability was at 94.6 for Georgia. For Missouri, when they're up 19-12, their largest win probability was 73, or it was 22-12 whenever they scored that field goal, and the win probability went up to 73.0. And then Georgia started to come back, and they ended up winning the game. I mean, hats off to Missouri for competing, but Georgia cannot do that. That's why y'all are not number 1 anymore. Next game, I thought this game was going to be competitive. Clemson has impressed me after that Wake Forest win. They continue to impress me with a huge victory over NC State. And they did the same thing that UCLA did, except for played better defense. They actually controlled the tempo of NC State. Devin Leary, he was having trouble all night against that pass rush, and DJU absolutely went off. And hats off to the Clemson Tigers, man. Hell of a win. But next game, not so much of a hell of a win for me. I picked Pittsburgh to win this game. But Georgia Tech comes into Pittsburgh and says, I will not be denied a win. And wins 26-21 over the Pitt Panthers. And they just fired their coach. So Brent Key is the interim head coach right now. And he gets his winning debut. Georgia Tech beats Pitt. Knocks them out of the top 25. Georgia Tech gets their second win of the season. Pitt, they're in trouble. They're not going to be in the top 25. And I got to say, Sims looked good out there. And that defense looked a hell of a lot better than when they played against Clemson this year. But next game, we're going to go to USC, Southern California, take on the Herman Edwards-less Arizona State Sun Devils. And Caleb Williams went off in this game. 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns for Dot. Jordan Addison, 105 receiving yards for 8 receptions. 348 passing yards for Caleb Williams. Emory Jones, he had a really good game. Just the touchdown interception ratio is the same. But I'm a little concerned for USC's defense. They're gonna have a tough test against Washington State. I think Washington State's better than what people think they are for a 4-1 team. They think they're going to fall down. I don't think so. I think the Pac-12 is more competitive now than the last 5 to 10 years. So this is going to be an interesting year for the Pac-12. Next game, the last ranked game. We got Stanford taking on the Oregon Ducks. And the Ducks, ever since that 49-3 loss to good old Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, they have been rolling in this game. Or in the last 4 games. 45-27, the Ducks win. Bo Nix had a decent game passing the ball, but running the ball. Had well over 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns off of that. And he has 4 total touchdowns. Great win for the Ducks. And hopefully we get to see them in the Pac-12 championship. But all right. Now that concludes our top 25. Now, here's some of the games that I highlighted this week, or this past week for the Week 5 recap. So, first game. Obviously, you're going to say, well, why does he always pick this team? Because they're my team. I got to talk about them. They're the number 1 brand of football. The Texas Longhorns, coming off of a tragic loss to Texas Tech in Lubbock. So normally a Texas team lately, they would just curl up and just be like, I don't even know how we're going to play today. Well, they played like they wanted to win. And they wanted to make a statement. And they made a damn good statement against West Virginia. Who's a competitive team. I mean, might not be the best in the Big 12, but they are a competitive team. And, Texas was up 28-0 at one point. And the first half, they looked fast. They looked good. offensively and defensively. In late first half, West Virginia was able to score, but in the second half, the momentum didn't change at all. Texas played hard throughout the whole entire game. I was proud to be a Longhorn that night, and I was happy because Oklahoma and Texas A&M lost, and the Texas offense actually produced very well, and Hudson Card has been playing really well. So we're going to talk more about the Red River Shootout, Texas and Oklahoma. This is pretty much the highlight of this video, the Texas and OU game, the Red River Shootout, Red River Rivalry, whatever y'all want to call it, the Red River Showdown, whatever y'all want to call it. But it is the highlight of our show this week. But moving on to a better matchup, I think, and it was tough for me. I thought Iowa State was going to come in, bounce back, and beat Kansas. Well, they would have went to overtime if Jace Gilbert didn't shank that field goal, and Kansas wins 14-11 to move on to 5-0. And Kansas didn't really produce much except for the run game. Only 213 yards total, but gave up 313 total yards. But Iowa State threw an interception, threw a fumble. And they had one turnover over Kansas, and really the special teams did not look good this game against Kansas. So hats off to the Jayhawks, 5-0 on top of the Big 12. Wow, I never thought I would say that. Wow, I'm impressed. But next game, LSU taking on Auburn. Auburn started off strong in this game. Brian Harson's in the hot seat. But LSU rallies back and scores 21 unanswered points. And they beat the Auburn Tigers 21-17. Jaden Daniels is a work of art. He is. But, I mean, for Auburn, this is a tough loss. And if I'm Brian Harsin, I get them ready for Georgia because Georgia is looking very vulnerable lately. So we'll talk about that more after we get done with these last two games. Next game, I thought this game was going to be closer. It wasn't. My picks were bad this week, and I hope I do better. Duke beats the hell out of Virginia, 38-17. Duke just fires on all cylinders, 21-0, and then Virginia kind of scored on them, and then Duke just ran away with this. And I mean, the defense from Duke absolutely played great against Virginia's offense, and Duke moves on. Next game, the last game, which ended up being on a Wednesday, and I guess they moved it to week 6, that I had highlighted for Sunday, but it moved to Wednesday, and I already made a prediction in this matchup. I didn't realize it was going to move to week 6, but we're going to move in to week 6 anyway. So UCF takes the victory, 41-19. I picked UCF to win. I thought UCF had a better style of offense. I thought they had a much more athletic defense. I don't think this is the SMU that Sonny Dykes had. They're struggling right now. Hopefully they can bounce back. But that concludes our Week 5 and one game Week 6 recap. But now, our actual Week 6 predictions. Okay? Where we're going to talk about not only the top 25, okay? But we're going to talk about my favorite rivalry in all sports. And it's with the most despicable fan base ever, besides A&M. The University of Texas squaring off against Oklahoma. Hook 'em Horns. Boomer Sooner. This is the Red River Rivalry, where Texas is favored to win this game. It'll be live on ABC, 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 Eastern. This is a huge matchup. I don't think people realize the implications of the Big 12 are this year. It is so wide open that anybody can get it. Anybody can get it at this point. And that's not discrediting the undefeateds that are still in the Big 12 because they still got to play each other. Okay? But Quinn Ewers is coming back. We don't know the status on Dylan Gabriel, but from my understanding, he's still going through concussion protocol. So we'll probably see Oklahoma's backup. But I got to say, man, this is going to be a fun one to watch. Despite records, Big 12 or overall, despite where they're ranked or unranked, this rivalry is a fucking emotional roller coaster. And I get overjoyed when we beat Oklahoma, and I get majorly depressed when Oklahoma finds a way to win. For example, we're beating the fuck out of OU when Spencer Sanders was a part of OU, and he was struggling bad against our defense. Then this shining star for Oklahoma, Caleb Williams, steps into play. Leads the Sooners into overtime. And beats us. And then after that, it just seemed like we just couldn't win games. We won against Kansas State because they sat some of their starters out. But last season was bad. Now we're on to this season where Texas looks good despite the Texas Tech game where we lost by 3. Despite the Alabama game where we played hard, but we lost by 1. Game-winning field goal by Alabama. We just ran out of time, like Sark said. Then you look on the other corner, playing tomato cans until you meet up with Kansas State, and you get your teeth knocked down your throat by Kansas State. Then you go to Fort Worth, lose another big game against TCU, who's actually a good football team this year. And Oklahoma's defense looks sad right now. And I got to say, with Quinn Ewers coming back, I have full confidence that the University of Texas will beat Oklahoma. How many points? I don't know. I'm not giving away points this year. I don't think I'll ever give up points because you never know with this game. This game has so many fucking implications. It does not matter. It's all for the bragging rights. But Oklahoma has won 7 of the last 10, and they have won 4 in a row. They've won 4 in a row since 2018, or since 2019. They've won 4 straight, and that doesn't sit well with me as a Texas fan. But I'm glad to see Quinn Ewers come back. I hope he balls out. But if not, Hudson Card's warmed up. He's ready to go. And I can't wait to see Texas and Oklahoma play. I always look forward to this game. And that's going to be the only unranked game I'm going to talk about, because I gave a lot of time to talk about this game, because this game is arguably the best besides the game, Michigan and Ohio State. But in my eyes, it's the best rivalry game, because you're meeting in a neutral site. I love neutral site matchups because it's half and half. It's a away and a home game. So I'm going to leave it at that. I got Texas with the win. Next game, we got Michigan taking on Indiana. Number 4, Michigan, traveling to Bloomington, Indiana to take on the Hoosiers. Now, this game, I'm not really excited. I'm not as excited as I thought I'd be for this game. But I got Michigan winning big in this game. I don't think this game is going to be fun to watch on Fox for Michigan fans. I think it's just going to be a bloodbath. I think Michigan's going to win this game. But I do have my concerns for Michigan for playing with their opponent. They played with Iowa. Okay? So that is a thought. But I think Michigan's going to actually beat the hell out of Indiana. But next game, we got LSU, ranked number 25th in the country, taking on number 8, Tennessee. Now, this game, LSU is favored, okay? It is in Death Valley. But here's my question for LSU. Can you stop Hendon Hooker? Can you stop Wyatt? Can you stop that offense that Tennessee has? I don't think so. I think Tennessee is going to win this game, and win this game pretty convincingly. 17+. All right, next game on Fox Sports 1. TCU, coming off of a huge victory, jumps at number 17, scoring off against number 19, Kansas. 19 Kansas. Both teams are undefeated. TCU is 4-0. Kansas is 5-0. TCU is the favorite coming into this game. And this is for the Big 12 lead. And this is going to be a fun matchup. I think this is going to be a competitive game for the first half. And then TCU is going to run away with this. I think TCU is going to win. I'm going to give TCU a 20-point spread over Kansas. I just don't think Kansas is there yet, but I love what Leopold's doing over there. I love the fact that he's built guys that are buying into the program, and finally, the stadium's actually going to get upgraded for Lawrence, Kansas. They're actually it's actually college game day over there. So congrats to Kansas. But will they win this game? I don't think so. After what I saw against Oklahoma, I don't think Kansas could beat TCU. So I got TCU winning this game. Next game I got on tap in Starkville. Got the sword swinging Mississippi State Bulldogs. Number 23 in the country. Excuse me. Facing Arkansas with KJ Jefferson out and Mississippi State's coming off of a big victory over Texas A&M. Arkansas has had trouble all season with the pass, and Will Rogers has been playing lights out for Mississippi State. And Duckling has been a big factor. Thomas has been a big factor. Heck, even Johnson in the run game has been a big factor for Mississippi State. And you don't hear that a whole lot out of Mike Leach. Credit his run game when he comes in and coaches a run game. I mean, it's one of those things where Mike Leach, he's a mastermind of the air raid. Not only can he attack you on the pass, but he can attack you on the run. That's what I love about Mike Leach. Now, Sam Pitt, he knows how to make the playbook work with KJ Jefferson and Sanders. I mean, this is a huge implicated match for the SEC West. A lot of people don't realize that. But I'm going to have to go with the Mississippi State Bulldogs on this one. I think they're running high, and Mike Leach has finally got this team going as a winning program. I got Mississippi State winning this game. Next game, look who's back in the top 25. The Cincinnati Bearcats, ranked 24th. Squaring off against 1-4 South Florida. Gary Bohannon, who is a Baylor transfer, has not had the best year. 3 touchdowns and 6 interceptions total this season. I mean, this is going to be a bloodbath. I got Cincinnati. No more to say about this game. Next game, Brian Harsin and the Auburn Tigers. Heavy underdogs. Squaring off against the number 2 team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, Georgia struggled in the last 2 games. I think it's going to be a tough one for Auburn in this game. I think Georgia's going to bounce back. I think they will have a big win over Brian Harsin and the and the Auburn Tigers. Brian Harsin might get that seat warmer in this game, depending on how Stetson Bennett and that offense rolls. But I got Georgia winning big in this game. Next game is one of my favorite games to ever watch. Got the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who just came off of a big loss, a crushing loss to Kansas State, 37-28. Squaring off against the number 17 and the number 17 in the country, and not only number 7 in the country, but could be the best team in the Big 12. Spencer Sanders, Donovan Smith. This is going to be a fun one to watch. Actually, my sister, she's actually in Stillwater right now. And every time she goes to a college game, she hardly ever goes to a college football game. And she's not an avid football player or football fan like myself and the rest of my family. But every time she goes to a college football game, it has been a Big 12 game or a Big 12 team that has been the home team, and they absolutely have crushed their opponent. In just 2 games that Peyton has been to, 90-6. The home team has overcome 90 points or has scored 90 points and not allowed the away team to score more than 6 points. But this one might be different. Texas Tech, they are a tough football team. Texas knows. Everybody knows. NC State knows. Oklahoma State, they are a tough football team. Baylor knows. This is going to be a fun one to watch. I think it's going to be a classic. But I'm going with the Pokes in this game. I'm going with the home team. Every game that Peyton has been in, the home team has won. And there's no exception to this game. I got Oklahoma State winning this game. And it might be a 10-point game, but it's going to be up there. It's going to look like a classic Big 12 game. We're probably going to look at 49-39 or 50-40 or 55-45 even. But this one's going to be a fun one to watch, folks. So if you love Big 12 football or if you love football in general and you're into offensive football, this is the game to watch. Not the Denver and the Indianapolis game. This fucking game. Texas Tech at Oklahoma State at Boone Pickens Stadium. Stay tuned. 2:30 Central. 3:30 Eastern. Next game, we're going to talk about a potential Pac-12 championship game. Utah, who's coming off of a 4-game win streak after losing to Florida, squaring off against a really good offense but confusing defense. Number 18, 5-0, UCLA Bruins. Now, this game to me, this is a more evenly matched game that you'll see in the Pac-12. But the one difference I think is that UCLA has got the offense to score more points than Utah. Utah is going to be a test for UCLA. I thought Washington was, but Utah is the test for UCLA before they play against USC. But I'm going to stick with the Bruins on this one. I think DTR is going to have another incredible game. I think Zach Charbonnet is going to have some really good runs, and Jake Bobo, he's going to have a good game. I'm gonna say it's going to be close, 6-point game. Next game, number 3, Ohio State Buckeyes squaring off against the Michigan State Spartans, where Mel Tucker is trying to figure things out. Why are we 2-3? We shouldn't be 2-3. Well, you're about to play the best team in the Big Ten, I believe. C.J. Stroud, he's gonna do the same thing that he did last year against y'all. I think Ohio State's just going to blow them out of the water. It's going to look like a 56-17, a 59-17 game for Ohio State. It's going to be a big win. Next game, Ole Miss taking on Vanderbilt. Now, this one's an easy one to me. They're playing at Vanderbilt, yes. Swan has not thrown an interception. But Jackson Dart, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this season. But I'm sorry, Commodore fans, but I'm going to have to go with the Rebels in this game. I think Vanderbilt's not quite there yet with competing against teams like Ole Miss and Georgia and Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky. Y'all could stick to South Carolina's and yeah. So I got Ole Miss winning big in that game. Next game is another Pac-12 matchup between number 21 Washington, who started to come back against UCLA, but didn't quite get there. So they're going to try to regroup. They're going to take on Arizona State, who lost their head coach in the middle of the season, got fired. So now they're 1-4, and it looks sad over there in Tempe, Arizona. So, and it's going to continue to look sad. I got Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington Huskies winning big in this one. Next game on tap, Clemson taking on Boston College. A pretty decent game, but I think UCLA is going to, or not UCLA, Clemson is just going to run through Boston College. I'm going to give Clemson a 20-point win. Next game, a very interesting matchup. Ward taking on Williams. Washington State Cougars. Butch taking on the USC Trojans. Now, this game is going to be an interesting game this is a test to USC's defense. This Washington State team is very impressive. They played against California, but they competed against Oregon, and they beat Wisconsin. It looked like they were sluggish at first in the first game against Idaho, but my goodness, they play football, folks. They are good again. And I got to say, this is going to be a tough one to call. But I'm still sticking to my guns with USC winning this matchup. I think USC is going to win, and they're going to win by 3. I think this is going to be a low-scoring affair. USC is going to come out alive. It's going to be like a 20-17, 21-17 type of game. It just feels that way. Next game, the Gamecocks, who are 3-2, with Spencer Rattler at quarterback, 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, taking on who I think is a way better quarterback, Will Levis. Mayonnaise in his coffee. 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Almost 1,500 yards passing. Kentucky looking to rebound after that loss against Ole Miss at Ole Miss. But now they're at home taking on a much easier opponent, in my opinion. I got the Wildcats beating Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks, dropping them down back to 500. Next game, Wake Forest at home against Army. Wake Forest looked very impressive against Florida State's defense. And make no exception, Army's always has a tough defense as of late in the last decade or so. But Wake Forest is going to win this game. I think they're going to spread out Army and pretty much just do what they want against Army. Next game, number 16, BYU, 4-1. Traveling to Vegas with them awesome threads. Black and blue helmets, man. And they're the transitional helmets where they look black and then they look blue. It looks fucking sweet. But they take on Marcus Freeman and the 2-2 Fighting Irish. And I got to say, Notre Dame has bounced back this season. They're starting to actually play some good football. They beat Cal 24-17, and then they beat Mac Brown in North Carolina pretty convincingly. This is a tough call right here. And I'm not really convinced with BYU winning this game, folks. I'm going to have to go with Notre Dame. Notre Dame has played a lot better football this season, and I'm impressed with Notre Dame in the last 2 games anyway, but I got them winning. Next game is a Big 12 matchup with huge implications again. Got the Kansas State Wildcats, who are number 20 in the country. Adrian Martinez squaring off against Deckers and the Iowa State Cyclones. Oh my gosh, I almost brutalized that name. And Iowa State, okay, they haven't played very well in the last couple of games. They got controlled by Baylor. They pretty much gave Kansas the win. But they're going to be competitive against Kansas State. Do I think they're going to beat Kansas State? No. I think Kansas State's going to win by 10. Next game. We got Alabama at home in Tuscaloosa. Bring out boxing gloves because we might have a co-main event, folks. Squaring off against Jimbo Fisher and the Texas A&M Aggies. Now, both starting quarterbacks are hurt. Max Johnson, Bryce Young. They will not be playing in this game. So we're going to see Milton versus Haynes King. Haynes King has been struggling this season. Milton, who stepped in for Bryce Young last week against Arkansas, really ran the ball pretty well, and Alabama's really hitting their stride as of late. I think that Texas game was really a wake-up call for Nick Saban in Alabama. But like A&M fans have told me, they said this last year, where Alabama's going to crush A&M. Well, here's the difference between last season and this season. Calzada actually played a really good second half of the season. A&M's offense has not looked good this season. And they got smacked around by Mississippi State again. They have not put up as many points as I thought they would against Sam Houston State. Y'all talk about the top recruiting class. Y'all talk about, man, we got this talent, we got this talent, we got this talent. But can Jimbo actually teach and coach them how to win a game? Can they win a game based off of Jimbo Fisher's coaching? I don't fucking think so. They got lucky last year. I will say that again. They got lucky. And Calzada actually played a heroic game. I actually never would have thought I would have said this about a former A&M player, but he played a gutsy performance last year. I don't think Haynes King's going to play the same way at all. I think Alabama is going to run through A&M like a whore on Leopard Street, folks. So if y'all don't know where Leopard Street is at, go to Corpus Christi. That's all I got to say. But I think Nick Saban and Alabama is going to really put it on A&M, despite not having Bryce Young being there. They got Milton there, who's really talented, a dual threat quarterback, former target for Texas, and then went over to Alabama. But guy to watch out for in this game is obviously Jahmyr Gibbs. He's a good running back. I think A&M's just gonna get fucking shit canned in this game. That's just my thought. Why? Because the coaching has been horrendous for A&M, and the productivity. Oh my God, I could not believe how bad the productivity it was this year for A&M. But the best game I could say though was against Arkansas. This is not fucking Arkansas. This is Alabama. Number 1 team in the country. And if y'all can beat Alabama, it's going to be based on what Jimbo Fisher is going to run. Is he going to give more touches to a chain, or is he going to actually screw this up like he's been in the past several games? But I got Alabama winning big in this game, as history repeats itself, by the way. Next game, we got Florida State, 4-1. Drops back out of the top 25. Scoring off against the Wolfpack, who just came off of a crushing loss to Clemson at Death Valley. Now, this is a key ACC divisional matchup. Jordan Travis has been playing lights out this season. Devin Leary, same way. I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. I think the last game that Florida State had, they'll learn from their mistakes. Same way with North Carolina State. We might see a back and forth type of game. I think the difference is North Carolina State's defense is a little bit better. I'm going to have to go with the Wolfpack winning this game based on their defense is a little bit better than Florida State's, and the quality of opponents that they played against was a little bit better, in my opinion. But I hope the Noles do well this season. They need this season to look back on and say, this is when Florida State bounced back. I hope they bounce back this season. I hope they don't drop this season and go 4-8. I hope they win more games and hope for the best for Florida State. But I think the Wolfpack's going to win by 3. Last ranked game of the season, or of the week 6 predictions. We got number 12 Oregon Ducks flying on over with a 4-game win streak to face the Arizona Wildcats, who are actually impressive, 3-2. And their quarterback, DeLaura, 14 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Bo Nix, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And DeLaura has actually 1,633 passing yards. So Arizona looks like they're a passing type of team. And they are very competitive this season. Their losses are to Mississippi State 39-17, which it's hard to play against Mike Leach in that air raid offense. And I can understand why they lost. But there's a pattern for Arizona with win, loss, win, loss, win. I think this is going to continue the pattern. Oregon's going to fly in and kick the crap out of Arizona. I'm going to give them a 17-point cushion. Oregon Ducks will be my pick. And that, my friends, concludes the PMP Week 5 recap and Week 6 predictions. Now, my final thoughts. This is a good week of football. Another hard week to pick predictions because you never know This is conference play, folks. We're out of the non-conference games where they're easy picks. Now we're in the hard picks, especially in the Big 12, especially in the SEC West, in the Pac-12 right now, in the Big 10. Teams that you would never thought would beat a ranked team. This is fun football. And this is what makes things more interesting. When you pick a certain team and they lose a certain way, and you go, "Oh, am I terrible at making predictions, or what the hell's going on?" But no, it's fun football, and you're really, really having to think about this. Okay, I had to think about this for a whole fucking week, and I skipped yesterday because I had to do NFL talks. But I had enough time today to think about it. And I made my predictions. And I'm pretty certain that I'm going to be right on a lot of games this week. Because I am a college football guru, for God's sakes. Come on now. But anyway, I'm excited for this week. The major reason why I'm super excited is because of the Red River Rivalry game. This game is arguably the best college football rivalry in history. Arguably one of the best rivalry games in all sports. That includes the Yankees, Red Sox. That includes the Cowboys, Commanders, whatever you want to call them now. This includes the Cowboys, Steelers. I mean, this is one of those rivalry games that you may be friends with somebody your whole life, but if they're a Sooner fan, you hate their fucking guts this week. And they hate your fucking guts because you're wearing burnt orange. And as of late, in a 4-game stretch, OU has got the right to say we're better than y'all. But I'm excited. I think Texas is going to win this game pretty convincingly. And we're going to come off all cylinders, all gas, no brakes. And I'm excited for this Jimbo and Nick Saban matchup. I hope I'm wrong in this game as far as Alabama blowing out A&M. I hope it's competitive like last year. It was fun to watch that game last year. I just think A&M got lucky and Alabama had a bad game. But I hope I'm wrong for A&M fans. Even though I hate A&M, I hope A&M goes 0-12 every year. But at the same time, I hope they have a competitive game against Alabama. Nobody wants to see Alabama number 1 for the rest of the season. So that concludes this episode. That concludes the PMP Live for this week. Tune in next week where we talk about college football. Recap of Week 6 and predictions for Week 7. And then tune in Thursday when me and Caleb talk about NFL football. We are the cream of the crop of all football podcasting. We are the PMP. Good night, everybody. And stay tuned next week. Thank y'all so much for watching. And for those future watchers, thank you for watching. If you're a subscriber and you watch this shit, hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. So that way you can see this ugly mug. And you can see the other ugly mug. And then you can see possibly a guest. Stay tuned. Good night, mwah, and good night, bang. Doing something different, I just switch it up. Turns up in my section, every night we live it up. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. Doing something different, I just switch it up. Turns up in my section, every night we live it up. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. This shit is exciting, doing the right thing. My style they biting, I'm straight like me. I'm back in this bitch, I'm talking my shit. I'm back in this bitch, I'm talking my shit. I'm about to get on your ass, I'ma just count me some cash. I'm about to get on your ass, I'ma just count me some cash. Doing something different, let's switch it up. Turns up in my section, every night we live it up. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck.